Hey TCS TV viewers, it's Dave and Evelyn from the camera store, and today we're looking at a compact telephoto lens.
This is the brand new Nikon 400 4.5 VRS lens. Evelyn, this is a fantastic lens for a bunch of different reasons. I like the size of it right off the bat. A 400mm lens of this size, I mean, it's not much bigger lengthwise than a 70-200 2.8 is going to be.
Yeah, I could see this being excellent for traveling around, and when you're pairing it with a beast of a camera like the Nikon Z9, this is going to be a fantastic combo. It's going to be able to keep up with the autofocus performance of the camera, and we're going to test it out today photographing birds, specifically birds in flights. And because this is 400mm, it's going to give us just enough reach. So we're going to have to use our legs a little bit to get the framing that we want, and that's okay, because with a lens this lightweight at 1160 grams, you're not really going to need to worry about putting it on a monopod. You can handhold it.
Yeah, I'm quite enjoying it already in what we started with, shooting birds in flight. It's very easy to sort of whip around and sort of carry. If we had a 400 2.8 lens, and even though the new 400 2.8s are much lighter than they used to be, it's a much bigger, much more unwieldy lens than what we have with this.
Yeah, I think Nikon's really achieved a nice balance between having a lens that's fairly bright at 4.5, you're getting a bit of that background separation, but it's really balanced with having something that's very compact, portable, and great to travel around with. Let's talk a little bit about the design of this lens. Of course, compactness and portability is definitely one of the key features with it, but I also love how all the weight is actually towards the back of the lens. I'm finding that it's really nicely balanced, especially when you pair it with this full frame body, the Nikon Z9. It's their top of the line camera. And actually, while I'm mentioning that, I should let you know that we got a very early sample of this. So this is a pre-production lens. One of the other features that we really love is that it's so easy to remove this tripod foot. And so all you have to do is unscrew this, push it in, and it comes off really easily. It's also easy to rotate it, and so you can quickly move from doing horizontal to vertical images while you're on the fly. But I'm actually just going to put this in my pocket because we're going to handheld this all day. And the nice thing is, with all of the way that they designed the controls and the buttons, I can do a lot of my adjustments while I'm looking through the EVF. So I don't have to remove my eye from it and check what I'm doing, because everything feels very nice and tactile. We have a separate manual control ring on the lens, again, just adding to that overall tactile experience. I also like that we have this memory set button. So if you're shooting a nest or something like that, and you always want to go back to that focus point, then you can press that button really easily and get back to it, and it'll just speed up your workflow. Another professional feature, if you're doing some more remote shooting, is that it has a Kensington lock built into this lens. So it just helps secure it if you're walking away from the camera and the lens. I think Nikon hit it out of the park with the design of this. I mean, it looks good, it feels good, and I just can't get over how lightweight this is.
Now, we both like the size of this lens. It is really nice to hold and work with. But what kind of image quality are we getting out of it? Now, if you're to crack this lens open, what do you get? What are the guts inside this lens? Well, there's 19 different elements and 13 different groups. We have one ED element, two super ED elements, but the star of the show in my mind is the SR element. Now, it's basically put in place to deal with chromatic aberration. This is what you see when you have very high contrast transitions between light and dark. We often see on lesser lenses a sort of green or magenta cast on either side of that. This lens here has very minimal of that, if not any at all. I'm really impressed with what they've been able to do with this lens. And I'm finding that right out of camera, very high contrast, really nice sharp images. Now, this is a 4.5 aperture lens, so you are going to be a little bit slower shutter speed than if you're lucky enough to have a 400 2.8. However, I don't really find it's a big deal at all, especially on a bright day like today, and with modern cameras like the Z9 that can handle higher ISOs so much better. Now, it is compatible with teleconverters, although if you do put a 2-time teleconverter on here, you are shooting f9, and it's going to be very difficult to kind of keep your shutter speed where you want, especially for birds in flight. And speaking of autofocus, nothing challenges autofocus systems more than birds in flight, I find, so that's what we're going to talk about next.
Dave and I are going to talk about the autofocus performance next, but before we do, I just wanted to mention that if you're in Canada and you like supporting local, Dave and I actually work for the camera store. We ship all across the country, and so if you don't mind, go over to thecamerastore.com and definitely shop our gear selection. And you can also see our blog and everything else that we do. So Dave, can you come over here? We're going to talk about autofocus. Focus, autofocus. Yeah. So What is your experience so far? What do you think of autofocus on this lens?
You know, it is very, very quick. I'm finding with the Z9, of course, it's a beast of a camera, but the lens has to match it.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very good combination right now. I'm finding it's not missing focus. It's just snapping the focus when it sees a bird in flight. And it really helps me get some good quality shots.
Yeah, I quickly grabbed a couple of shots earlier and I was like, wow, 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 wow on the autofocus tracking. And of course, every time I pick up the Z9, I feel that way. I have strong feelings about the Nikon Z9. But yeah, it's fun to work with. It's satisfying. You're able to get that great hit rate. And I think, again, like you said, the hit rate is awesome. Another thing, because we're shooting handheld, the vibration reduction is quite impressive. So because we have the combined vibration reduction of 6 stops with this combo, it's working fantastically for handheld photography, especially if we end up shooting in lower light scenarios. And if you're working with one of the other full frame Nikon bodies, then you're gonna get about 5.5 stops of image stabilization. Overall, Dave, I think we're both enjoying this combination. I mean, the Nikon Z9 paired with this lens, this is a great combination.
No, 100%. Now, there are other 400mm lenses on the market available in the Z mount, including the little bit pricier 400 2.8 from Nikon. Now, it's an absolute gorgeous lens. I'm not taking anything away from that one at all, but it is another price point or two above this. But you also have the 1 to 400, which this is going to be compared to a lot. Now, it is a zoom lens, but it has a variable aperture as well, a lot less light gathering ability. So I think this lens still has a very valuable place in the market.
Absolutely, and just the compactness, the portability, the performance, and the light gathering capability, I think Nikon has really hit the sweet spot in balancing all these things. And I like how they've designed this lens. They've made it feel very professional. I think it's going to be great to travel around with. And of course, we want to know, what do you guys think? Is the 400mm lens on your radar? Are you into bird photography, wildlife? Share those links and let us know what you think below.
And do you mind being a 2-foot zoom, or you have to move back and forth to get the framing you like? Make sure you follow us both on Instagram.
And if you're new to our channel, please subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we'll catch you again very soon.
Hey, thanks for sticking around and watching this first look at the 400mm f/4.5 S lens from Nikon. If you want to check out more of our recent content, click up here. And if you're a Canadian, you want to shop local, check out thecamerastore.com down here.